Hey, I'm so excited that you're here today. We're going to be talking about navigating health insurance in early retirement. So that's our subject today. And it's a really interesting subject because I have a lot of clients in this particular situation. And sometimes what it happens is if you don't know what your options are, you actually end up working longer than you wanted to. Maybe you've done a great job saving, you've got the funds, you're wondering, could I retire? I visited with a gal yesterday, and she said, she goes, I know I'm 54, I really want to retire at 60. So we have to figure this out, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what your options are in this particular situation. The THEA system. So at THEA Financial, seriously, our goal is to be completely comprehensive. It's not just about asset allocation, is it? I mean, your retirement is multidimensional. You have an income need. You need to know you're not going to run out of money. You've got to know how your health care is going to work. You need to understand if you're Medicare eligible, you need to understand, what are my options? Should I do Medicare? Should I do Medicare Advantage? I mean, there's a lot of questions about that. What are taxes going to look like? Our team at THEA Financial is educated and proficient in all of those areas. So we look at the relationship that we have with our clients as comprehensive. We wrap our arms around everything, even the estate planning, the whole shooting match is what my mom used to say, and help you put together something that makes sense and that gives you the guidance that you're looking for. So that piece of it is what we're going to be talking about today, right? So when we think about the people that we work with, and if you're on this call today, I'm assuming this is you, okay? So you are a person that retirement, or maybe early retirement, it's on your mind. You may be a ways away from it, but you would like to know, what do I have to do to put my plan into place? Because I am not the type of a person to, what I like to say is, wing it. You're a very hardworking woman. You wake up before dawn every day. You've worked hard for decades. You have relationships at work that matter to you, but you've been on a mission for a long time. You've been saving money, and you really want to know that when you move into retirement, that you're going to be solid, you're going to be sound, and you're going to have what your heart is set on. So if retirement is on the horizon, or if you would just like to know what my options are, we at THEA Financial, we know what accomplished women need to do to live an amazing retirement. And that's what we're going to talk about today in one of those areas, which is just the healthcare. So to get going here, our agenda today is, first of all, I want to help you understand where to start. How to make these kind of decisions and basically where to start. Secondly, we're going to talk about what your options are. So if you want to retire before Medicare, what are your options? What can you do? And then the third thing we're going to talk about is, what is a comprehensive financial plan anyway? Okay, so let's talk about what your options are. And if you're taking notes, you may want to write some of these down, because this is going to give you some very specifics. So you basically have 5 options. Well, you actually have 6, but we'll talk about, and I'll tell you what the 6th one is. You have COBRA coverage, would be your first option. Your second option is the health insurance marketplace, commonly known as the ACA. You have health sharing plans. You may be in a relationship, you may be married, you may have a partner where you have an employer, your spouse or your partner's employer coverage you can get on their plan. Or you may choose a short-term health insurance. We'll talk about that. And the other option, of course, is Medicaid. So what I want to do for a minute is I want to just talk you through the parameters of what these are and how you would make decisions about, well, which one is right for me. Okay. So I have to adjust my screen. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to do this so I can see. There we go. All right. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about COBRA. Here we go. When does COBRA make sense? Well, there's times when it does, and then there's times when it doesn't. So here's something I want to share with you on. I'm going to give you some real stories because, like I said, we work with hundreds of women, and we have the opportunity to really see what kind of information they get and how they're making decisions. So if you're leaving a job that has an employer-sponsored health insurance, you might be eligible for COBRA coverage, and it allows you to continue that coverage for up to 18 months. All right, up to 18 months. So that there's a time limit on that. Now, it does provide continuity of coverage. However, it can be very expensive because you are now going to be paying the full premium. Now, when you were working, your employer typically subsidizes that premium. You might have a contribution towards it, but you're not paying the whole thing. So you're going to be paying the employer's part and your part. Now, recently, I was working with a gal in California, and she was doing that. Well, she was paying $1,200 a month. And as we started working together, I said, why are you paying that? Well, she was paying that because she didn't know what else to do. So she just kept it. And that's what she was paying. $1,200 a month is a pretty, it's a pretty steep premium, but that's what she was doing, taking it out of her savings. When might it make sense for you to do that? Well, one is if you need short-term coverage until you secure another plan. So that might be, let's say that you're 64 and a half. Okay. And maybe your company folds, maybe you get laid off, or maybe you just decide I'm done. All right. You're not eligible yet for Medicare. So what you do is you say, okay, I'll go ahead and extend my coverage for another 6 months, and you make those payments, and it is what it is. Okay. It might make sense to do that. Another time that it might make sense is if you're receiving ongoing treatments and you just don't want to upset the apple cart. Okay. So what that would look like is you would just continue on until you find the right plan that will work for you. Now, let's say you want to retire, you want to wait till you're 59 and a half, you want to retire at 60 so that you can access your retirement savings without penalty, but you're going to need this for 5 years, then COBRA would definitely not be the right plan. You might as well go ahead and get a plan that is affordable and get a plan together so that you have the income coming in that works for that. So when you're looking at that, these are really the two options that I would say for when it makes sense to use COBRA. The next one would be the marketplace, the Affordable Care Act. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this one today because this one turns out to be a wonderful opportunity for our clients. I have so many clients that we have coached through this. And the biggest thing is you have to get your income right. So let's talk about what it is. And then I'm going to give you some examples because I want you to understand. Now you're going to see on this slide here, the last bullet point is the website. Please write that down. It's the website that you will use to go and see the plans that are available to you where you live. So it's healthcare.gov/C-plans. Write that down. If you type that into your browser, it's going to ask you for your zip code and ask you some questions about yourself. And then literally you can see what's available to you. Now, let's talk about what these are. The cost of your insurance is based on a subsidy. The subsidy is determined based on your income, your taxable income. All right. I'm going to go into that in detail because you need to understand that. They have different coverage levels. They're called bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Bronze is the least expensive with the highest deductible. So as you read through these plans, what you're going to see is that some of them will say, okay, you have a $7,500 a year deductible, but no copay. All right. Then you have some that will have a lower deductible, but you have a copay. I mean, they're all over the board. Now, what you need to understand is that these are not substandard policies. Where I live, I looked it up before our meeting today just to see, it's the same company I'm personally using for my business. Okay. It's the same plan, only the cost is a lot different. All right. So they're not substandard, They're accepted everywhere. It's not like a plan that you have to find a doctor that will take it. It's, you know, it's a reputable insurance company. The difference is that it's based on your income. Your premium is based on your income. There is a special enrollment period. You have to understand that as well. So the special enrollment period is November through mid-January, unless you are separated from employment. If you are separated from employment, you have about 30 days or so to secure your coverage without having to wait until November through mid-January. But every year this comes up, you will be able to change plans or adjust your plan or just stay with the same plan and just take it right on through. But you'll have that opportunity for 3 months a year. All right. But the special enrollment period gives you that access when you retire. So if you're working with us, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be actually strategizing with you in this area. We're going to spend some time working on it together, make sure that you have fantastic health insurance. Now, the other thing you should know is that through the affordable marketplace, you can also get dental insurance and vision insurance. So they're an additional cost over and above your healthcare, but those are also available. And if you go to the website, you will see that on the website. Okay. So everybody got your, you wrote down the website address. Okay. healthcare.gov/C-plans. And then you enter your zip code. All right. Now, this is where this becomes interesting because your premiums are based on modified adjusted gross income. Modified adjusted gross income. What is that? Okay. Well, it's actually a collection of 5 different types of income added up, and then you put that number into the marketplace. It'll ask you what your income is going to be next year. And then that is what determines your premiums. Okay. So let's talk about what that means. Earned income. You might be a nurse. You've been in the field for, 31 years. You're truly done. You're just done. You just want to get out. You're ready to move on to something else. You might have earned income that year. If you do, it counts in the modified adjusted gross income calculation. So you may end up needing to do COBRA until that changes. But you also might say, you know what, I'm going to work in my sister's business. I'm just going to help her out doing some, bookkeeping, and I'll be making, $1,200 a month, whatever it is. That's earned income. We have to add it into this calculation. It could be self-employment or freelance income, or it could be business income. And this would be, the business income would be your profit after your deductions. So if you have a lot of write-offs, your business income could be pretty small. That is considered earned income. So you collect all those numbers and that goes into the formula. Retirement income. Retirement income could be IRA withdrawals. So if you're taking money from an IRA, that counts as income in this calculation. All right. Now, it doesn't count if it's a Roth IRA. Have a client that she's done an incredible job with her Roth IRA. She has a huge Roth IRA. We're going to get her healthcare because she's going to be retiring before Medicare. We're going to get that down so that literally they're almost paying nothing for healthcare because all of her withdrawal will be coming from the Roth for the first couple of years. Okay. A 401k or a 403b or any other pre-tax retirement plan withdrawals. If you're retiring before the age of 60, you can take withdrawals from your 401k or 403b without the penalty. When you roll it into an IRA, you have to be 59 and a half. There's strategies like that you may not know, but you need to know them. If you're receiving a pension, that counts as income. Or if you are receiving Social Security benefits. Now, let's talk about that. It's only the taxable portion of your Social Security benefits. It's not the whole amount. So if we're smart and we want to start our Social Security, let's say you're 63 And you're thinking, you know what? I don't have a reason not to take it. I don't want to use my own money. I'll use the benefit that I've already accrued. Yes, let's turn it on, but let's take your other withdrawals from an account that isn't taxable so that your Social Security is not taxable. Your head is probably spinning saying, I don't know what she's talking about. Okay, I'm going to tell you, we know, and we know how to do this so that you can get affordable health care. So it's part of our planning, and we're good at it. So I just want you to know we can do that. All right, investment and passive income. What is that? Investment income could be, let's say you have a bunch of CDs, okay, and you put them in there, and you know you get a 1099 every year for that interest. Even though you can't get to it, it counts as income. All right. Any account that is not an IRA will have capital gains, and it will have dividends and interest income. So we have to take a look at what you have. We put it into our system. We look to see, well, what will this kick out? Because that determines then where we take our other sources of income. If you sell a piece of real estate, capital gains. Let's say you decide, I'm going to retire, I'm going to sell my home, I'm going to move to Florida. Okay, so your home is in, we'll use somebody was from Rhode Island. Your home is from Rhode Island, and it's $550,000, and that's what you get. And your cost basis, what you paid for it, was $300,000. So you have a $250,000 gain. Well, as you know, in some cases that can be forgiven because that's your deduction. But if you have capital gains from a property sale, that counts as income. Okay. And another one that sometimes comes up is rental income. So you might have an Airbnb, or you might have a couple rental properties. However, you never show a profit because you're writing everything off. Then you don't have to worry about it because you deduct the expenses, and then whatever's left over is income. You might have royalties. You might have written a book that you're getting an income from. You might own some oil stocks or any passive business income. All of this gets added up. Now, when we're working with you on your planning, what we're looking at is we are looking at all of this together so that we can be sure that we get your income right so that you can qualify for healthcare and not just, use your own money for I'm not opposed to paying my own way, right? But if I don't have to pay it, there's no reason to. Okay, that's called modified adjusted gross income. Now I want to give you a case study just so you can see how all this works. All right, because I don't know, this might seem complicated. We'll just use Lisa. She's 62 years old and she is retired, or she's going to retire. She has $700,000 in savings, and she needs $6,000 a month in order to live comfortably and be fine in her retirement. Okay, so she is not going to start her Social Security quite yet. So what we're doing is she's going to take an IRA withdrawal of $4,000 a month. She's going to use part of her Roth IRA of $1,000 a month, and she's going to take some money out of savings, $1,000 a month. Now, what counts as income here? Well, the only thing that counts is that $4,000 a month. Roth IRA doesn't count. Savings don't count. So that's $48,000. So I went into the Oregon marketplace and just threw this in there and said, well, what would her monthly premiums be? Her healthcare premium for a bronze policy would be $153 a month. Okay. Now she could also do COBRA and pay $1,200 a month for basically the same coverage. So this is what I mean about having a plan that is comprehensive. You've got to be able to use the rules, understand the rules, know how money is calculated and what the calculations are when it comes to this, and then be able to draw money from the right place in order to, live well in your retirement. So that's what modified adjusted gross income means as it relates to the Affordable Health Care Act, the marketplace. Again, I just want to re-emphasize, the marketplace is a great way to get insurance. You just have to be smart about how you take income. Okay. Now, you do have a few other options. I just wanted to toss them out here. Health sharing plans. I don't know if you know what these are, but these are health sharing ministries or health cost sharing plans that are available. I've actually had clients with these before. They're not insurance, but they're a cost sharing plan. Many times you can get these through religious organizations, maybe, I mean, there are political organizations. There's a lot of different ways to find these. They're pretty inexpensive typically. If your income doesn't qualify you for any kind of affordable health care in the marketplace, and the COBRA plan is really expensive, this might be an option for you. These plans have lower costs. They do come with restrictions on pre-existing conditions. So they're not quite the same as healthcare today, which if you apply in the time frame that you have, that you're supposed to, pre-existing conditions don't count. But anyway, if you're in good health, if you don't require, regular medical care, if you're comfortable with a religious or an affiliated program, maybe a politically affiliated program, there's nothing wrong with these. They can work just fine. Another one is, obviously, if you're married or you're partnered and you have employment coverage through your spouse, sometimes that makes sense. The other day, we were looking at that for a client who is 65. Her husband is still working and she's going to retire, and she's trying to figure out, well, if I go on his plan, what will that cost? So I had him look it up. Well, it was about $500 a month. Well, she can get Medicare, full Medicare coverage with a supplement for about $350 a month. So the question is do you want his plan, or do you want to just go ahead and start your Medicare? So there's questions like that as well. Short-term health insurance. So short-term health insurance would be a health insurance that you put into place that is only going to be there for a few months. Okay. Now, the reason I brought this up is that this was kind of a funny situation, but many years ago, one of my clients had her company folded, and she was within about 6 months of Medicare. So what we ended up doing was she actually found a short-term health insurance policy through Costco. It's always worth it to check it out. I mean, it was like, I don't know, $150 a month. It covered catastrophic health. I mean, and that's all she was really worried about. She said, the last thing I need is to have a car accident or have something happen and, serious. And so I said, well, just don't do anything silly for the next 6 months. Okay. But that's where she found it. The last one is Medicaid. And in some states, Medicaid is when your income is low enough, when your reported income is low enough, where it falls under there's no premium, and it's a Medicaid policy. Now, I had this happen with a client. They had a large portfolio, but they had some stock options that they had cashed in, and they had a lot of cash. So they just decided they would live on their cash for a while. They went to the marketplace, put it in there. They didn't have a premium, didn't realize what had happened. Well, what had happened is that even though they had a large portfolio, they had a lot of reserves, they were now on Medicaid. So my client was at the doctor and she gave him her card. And so they took her into a room, wanted to do a little bit of counseling on, managing her money. And she couldn't figure out why they were doing that. Well, it turns out she was on Medicaid. So anyway, it was kind of funny, but the point is that, if you get your income down low enough, then that option becomes available. So you actually have no healthcare costs whatsoever. All right. And the coverage is great. So when we're thinking about all of this, we talk about, all of these options. And if your head is spinning, that's totally okay. I get it. But what is a plan? Okay. When we talk about a plan at Thea Financial, we call ours the Thea system. We're going to look at everything. All right. We're going to look at your government, well, it's not a benefit, your Social Security benefits. Okay. We're going to look at pensions and what you have in stocks and bonds and mutual funds, and what's pre-tax and what's post-tax. If you have a Roth IRA, what the real estate looks like. We're going to help you make decisions on, if you want to move, when does it make sense to do that? And why would it matter? What other things does it impact? We're going to look at if you have a deferred comp and you have a pension that you can take, or if you've got stock options. All of this comes into play in healthcare. Believe it or not, it all wraps into healthcare and into, your tax plan at the end of the day, what we're going to do is create a retirement paycheck that you will have for the rest of your life. But there's stages of life where if you're retiring young, that could have some implications that you want to be sure that you take into account. So the strategy has to be your strategy. This is based on you particularly. You can't just go to the internet, find, what should I do about healthcare, and then just follow that path. There's a lot of things that come into play with this, including how you saved your money, if it's pre-tax or post-tax, where your income is coming from. Like I have a client with a large inherited IRA. Well, she's required to take money out of that every year, and it's a significant amount. It's going to kick her out of any affordable health care. Well, okay, it is what it is, right? But there's a lot of pieces to this. So navigating health insurance and early retirement, it could be an early retirement that you've planned, or it could be a forced retirement that you did not plan. Either way, what I'm telling you is that it requires planning. And if you are working with someone that's not just investing your money, but it's really looking at the big picture, you can find affordable, reliable coverage and still realize your retirement dreams. When we talk about the saying that I just live by is that there's a huge difference between hoping and knowing. When you move into retirement, or when you have retirement on your mind, you have a vision of what you want that to look like. And what I can say for our company, our firm, is that we care very much about that vision. But to go into a vision go into a retirement without knowing for sure that you have a plan that addresses all of that is a really insecure feeling. And I actually have an illustration that I see this in my mind. I'll just share it with you. Many years ago, I was traveling between my offices. We had offices all over the state. At that time, we weren't virtual like we are today. And so I was traveling between offices. I was on my way back to my home base, back to my home, and I had to go over this mountain pass. Well, driving along, I'm listening to a podcast. I'm actually really enjoying the drive. It's beautiful. I come up over this hill, and there was this low cloud that, like, all of a sudden I was in dense fog. Okay. And holy cow. I mean, I turned off you know how you do. You turn off the music or the podcast. I hunkered down over my steering wheel. I really could not see the road. And I'm driving along. I slowed way down, and I'm thinking, all of a sudden I wasn't even sure that I was in the right place. It was so disorienting to have that happen. And as I'm driving along and feeling that tension, your blood pressure goes up, and I thought, you know what? This is how it feels to go into retirement without a plan, because you can't see very far. You don't know if you're making the best decisions. You don't know if what you're doing is the right thing or the wrong thing, or if there's a better thing. You just don't know. And that is something that I care deeply about, that our clients know. And so our planning system, if you are thinking, you know what, we need to talk. Okay. If that's what you're thinking as we're listening to this, we need to talk. You definitely, we can do that. We can share. I'll put our calendar up right now. You can schedule some time on the calendar, spend some time. Our first meeting is really just talking about you. What's on your mind? Where are you at in this process? What have you done so far? And just really discovering that together. If we decide, you know what, let's continue this conversation, I think I'm ready to get a plan in place, then we do a deep dive together, and then we go from there. But it's a process. It's not, if you decide you're going to spend some time with us, you have to make decisions on the first visit. That's not how it works. We call it Explore Thea. If that's on your mind, I would really like to offer that to you. And specifically, if you have questions about our subject matter today, which is this healthcare question. Now, I have a couple people that have asked a few questions. We're going to open it up for Q&A. I'll give you a chance. I'm going to leave this calendar link up here. So if you want to schedule some time, feel free to do that. Here's one that says, I'm already retired, and I'm wondering about original Medicare versus Advantage plans. When I retired, I wasn't aware of original Medicare and wasn't told by my advisor. That's sad. Well, first of all, I'm a big proponent of the original Medicare. I can tell you My clients that have Advantage plans, they really have a lot of limitations, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm just telling you the truth, how I feel about it. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but we do have a webinar that I did on this very subject. And what I would say, Sybil, is that you need to set up some time. Let's talk about what your options are, because the original Medicare is an incredible program and it's affordable. $185 a month, get your supplement, get your drug plan. All in is about $350 a month, $350, $380. And it's amazing insurance, basically no deductible. I'm a big fan. Another person says, I'm retired and have health insurance through my job. I retired from due to health reasons. I retired at 62. I'm turning 64 this year. Do I have to apply for Medicaid or Medicare if I have health insurance? So that's a good question, Michelle. No, as long as you have health insurance, Medicare is not. Well, actually, when you turn 65, the answer to that question is yes, you will want to get Medicare. But right now, you're not qualified for it anyway. You have to be 65. But when you turn 65, then you would need to get, unless it's supplied by your employer, you have to go on Medicare. In fact, your insurance would no longer carry you. They will require you to go on Medicare as well. Okay. Is there any other questions that I can answer for anyone? Is there anyone that has something that you'd like me to address while we're kind of chatting here? Okay. If not, the other thing that I would encourage you, if you're retiring early, or you're worried about a potential change in your job situation, what I would say is that, and the other piece to this is if you have other people in your family that are also on the insurance, these thresholds of income are based on the number of people in the family. So there's lots of options when you go to the affordable or when you go to the healthcare.gov website. So I just encourage you to wander through that. Michelle says, my insurance is part of my pension for life. Oh, that is so amazing. I love it when that happens. Do you still have to pay for Medicare? No. Now, well, it depends on what you're getting. Some pension plans if you're with the government, most of those are insurance for life. But they will eventually, you will have a Medicare. Okay. I don't know how to answer that because I don't know who you worked for. But in some cases, what my clients have, like I have clients who are in the teaching profession and they get a supplement. They don't have to pay for the supplement, but they do go on Medicare. So that's an individual question. We certainly are willing to answer that one for you and look at what you have. Okay. So with that, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I've enjoyed this subject. I'm very passionate about it because it helps you make the best decisions about yourself. And you also have the opportunity to retire on your terms without this threat of this ridiculous costing health insurance, keeping you on the job when you don't want to be there anymore. Okay. Retiring on your terms is always the first goal. So with that, I'm going to say thanks so much for being here. It's been a pleasure. And we will send you a replay of this so you'll have a chance to, listen in again if you still want to get some information. And if you are thinking about retiring or you have questions about this subject as it relates to you, feel free. You can go to our website and set up a time there to talk with one of our advisors. You can click right now, or we'll catch you on the next weekly Wednesday webinar. Thanks for being here.